Oh, look, the furnaces are shutting down. Yeah, welcome back to Minecraft Better Than Adventure. I decided to take a short break and join back as the furnaces were finally shutting down. And oh boy, are they. I know there's a pig outside, but not being able to hear what it is in beta, not being able to see what it is in beta, and only seeing it is a little bit terrifying. And now, oh yeah, now these are gonna take a little bit longer because all of these are the new batch or whatever, I think. Yeah. Gimme. Okay, now we can return to our work. For as long as it takes. It's going by pretty quick. Can't complain. You know, funny story. One of the characters who I have, one of the characters who I've always kind of liked, in the sense that I think it's a generally interesting jumping off point for maybe, like, an interesting sort of character thing, is, like a character for a movie I haven't watched. It's, Titan from the Mega Man movie. You know, like, you spell it Titan, like, tightening something. And the reason why it's interesting to me is specifically because it's not like something that is meant to be conventionally. Like, he is not a superhero, right? He's supposed to be super, but a villain. Maybe there's a term for this. What kind of fascinates me is this idea of having like supernatural, like, I don't want to say the term entity because that's been kind of co-opted by like analog horror or whatever, right? Or not like Labubu analog horror, that sort of stuff. But yeah, like, I find it like an extremely interesting idea to have like a sort of supernatural human, like, you know, Superman, Fat Man, something of the sort, right? But to not have them be viewed as heroes in the conventional sense, right? Obviously, you know, we've seen this before in the franchises, and I think it's really interesting. So, you have The Boys, for instance, you know, the documentary, as according to the producer. But the issue is, I feel like even The Boys doesn't come close to what I've been thinking of. Because in my mind, I was kind of, well, to be fair, the issue is, when I came up with my idea, I was kind of in the bubble of not knowing what The Boys was. But I specifically find it interesting to have a system of, because the inspiration came from, like, how in a lot of cartoons and such, you know, a lot of these super-powered characters, like Superman or whatever, right? They have their weakness to the point that in pop culture, you can refer to something as someone's kryptonite, and you can literally understand, you know, what the person is saying because it's such a common plot device, right? So in my mind, I was thinking to myself, like, hey, what if you could have, like, a sort of, let's call them the super family, and they're basically, like, you know, the sort of superhero archetype in a physical sense, right? They can fly because they decide they want to fly. They have the super strength, and well, in my interpretation, that's basically it, because the other stuff would be secondary, you know? You get the point when I say superhero that flies, super strength, you know, that sort of super. The laser eyes and super breath are kind of depending on the model, you know? But, what I was thinking about specifically is, wouldn't it be interesting if you could, for instance, have, a sort of, like, villainous, evil, wretched scum version of that? Kind of like in a lot of the, like, anti-superhero sort of media, you know? I mean it in, like, an anti-hero sort of way, but because they're superheroes, then it's anti-superhero. You get me. So my idea was to have a character or like a set of characters who are basically that kind of archetype. But there's also like, in the specific, I don't want to explain the entire story because it'd take way too long, and it's nowhere near done. Maybe like a sixth, if that. The idea is to have a sort of, well, there's a west side and an east side to the. I just call it the continent because I haven't thought of a name. The west side has the west side is sort of like. I wanted to have it like as a difference between like how do I explain this in a way which makes sense? Like the west is kind of lawless in a sense, but the east provides way more safety than the west, specifically from the private military companies that basically rule the planet. But also, like, the west is sort of freer but more dangerous. The east is way less free but also way safer. I think it's kind of an interesting idea, and the reason why it's west and east is because, I'll be real with you, it wasn't to, like, mirror reality TM or something. It's just because, as somebody from a Western country, I naturally read from left to right. And so, as obviously, the idea is, at least for the beginning of the plot, one of the key main sort of things that gets the story going, once, like, the main characters and some of the main things you have to look out for are established, one of the main points is, fuck it, we have to find some way to go over the massive mountain range dividing the, central continent and make it to the east. And what happens then? Who knows? That's sort of the idea. And currently I'm trying to devise how they get to there. I have some ideas. I've been way too busy with a lot of other stuff, because I'll be real with you, most of the stories I write will never be finished. Except the D one, but that is in dire need of a rewrite. And the success I've had so far with the characters is nice, because this is the first time I've actually... I have this issue of trying to write too many characters and remembering I can't really write very well, and giving myself a workload too big, so I really don't know how to juggle everything, that sort of stuff. This is sort of just to preface the Megamind fucking thing, because my idea was to sort of have the city, I just called it Metropole for the sake of it being basically the largest city on the west. And in my mind, Metropole is like kind of a browner Paris in terms of, like, in my head, right? It's a Parisian sort of, well, I just realized that sounds really bad. I mean, like, the Parisian sort of city style, though with some, like, central things being maybe more modern-ish, contemporary, like, more, like, contemporary 80s architecture in the center, but mainly I was thinking of, like, the buildings themselves, because a lot of the buildings in Paris are, like, painted white with, like, relatively light-colored roofs, and I wanted to have, like, a more sort of mix between, like, that idea and a more sort of, like, what you would expect from, like, a city of, like, old Russia. So, the sort of, like, browner clay tile roofs. I realize that kind of sounds really bad. Yeah, I've thought about, specifically the, like, sort of, because I haven't even really thought of it. I thought about how some of the scenes would look in my head when I was trying to describe them, and basically just, telling you this here. But yeah, and in this city, called, for now, Metropole, because there's the guy. And specifically for this guy, the issue is a lot of these names, I don't know if I'm going to change them or not. For now, I was going to call him Timmy, because I thought it'd be interesting. But then I thought it'd be interesting to maybe call him Timur, because fancy. Maybe I could have a system where they have a normal, like, human-sounding name, but, as they, like mature into an adult super, they gain you know, they gain the ability to like pick the superfied version of their name named after one of the old heroes, you know, something like that. And the idea is these people are awful. They're basically like kind of not too dissimilar of like what if not only Megamind won, which I don't know what that'll really look like, because he's just... Well, actually, no, that's a stupid way of putting it. Because it's not about him winning, is it? Yeah, no, it's more like... I should have gone down and, I'll do it here. It's more like sort of the boys thing, where, like, the main characters are, you know, obviously reprehensibly evil or whatever. No, not the main characters, right? Because he's not the main character. But yeah, like the supers are sort of like obviously reprehensibly evil, but it is so culturally ingrained in like the everything in Metropole that people just kind of, you know, go along with it without any real consideration for if what they're, you know, fine with is right or wrong. This is where the plant people come in, and I'm just going to refer to them as that so I don't get a lot of the namings confused. Plant people are one of the, like, rarer forms of life in this specific place. There are other things out there. Some of them are horrific mutated beasts, and similarly to a lot of those, the plant people were just another experiment. However, unlike most of the experiments, which went horrifically wrong, leaving disfigured, hateful, wretched abominations, this time, this actually functions correctly. These are actual people. They function completely normally, and can do so for generations. And basically, the plant people aren't actually very, planty. They're more like, parasites, which can absorb life from, and, like, energy through plants or whatever. Well, it may be more of a jaded idea, but they're fine, whatever. And obviously, like, depending on whatever, they have some specific... I thought that was some purple thing. No, it's a squid. So for this story, what matters is there's one of them, who was basically... Well, there was an entire group of them, but they're becoming more and more rare, because what are plant people in this world, run by, like, private military companies and, insane supervillain hero people, if not commodities to be traded, to be bought, and to be sold, with, implications of, at the very least, being eaten alive, let's be real here. I thought it'd be kind of interesting, and, I was writing that well before the file's released, so, I predicted something. But, yeah, I was working on that before, and I'm still working on that, because I feel like, shit. I feel like way too many stories will try to, like, hide away... They're gonna basically try to whitewash a lot of this stuff. Like, they always talk about the slave trade. Like, it was... It's done in real life as well, where people talk about the slave trade as if it was like, oh, well, these were... They basically try to equate them with just, like, workers under really poor working conditions, and not for the actual, like, horrific things that, you know, the institutions of slavery were. And I feel like just kind of very clearly having a modern world where these serve no, like, alleged economic purpose, you know? Having that would, well, it may upset a few people, but, like, that's life, isn't it? Like, what the plant people aren't a thing that I made up. I mean, they are, they're not real. But you know what I mean, it's not like the plant people aren't analogous to what happens in real life to, like, you know, people. But yeah, that's the general idea. And specifically, what are the things, because plant people What's the one plant thing you have to deal with in every fucking RPG you've ever played? That's right, poison. So, as you could probably imagine, an issue with the way that I thought about what would be just like the most wretched, brutal way of picking out the correct one. Well, when Timur was but a young lad, he and his younger brother, whose name I may have forgotten, because he's only relevant in as much as like the plot reason for why Timur wants revenge. Basically, oh shit. Basically, Timur was searching for, the Lylons. And the way they do that is they fly down and try to, like, search for them. If they find one, but they're tricked, and by tricked I mean they're not the one they think they'd like, they try to kill them. Like, they punch them. And because they're super strong, a punch may as well be like, attempted murder. And because of that, the idea was to have a, situation where the main Lylon, or plant person, or whatever, in this story, because it's one of the main characters from a Portal. I also didn't know what an isekai was before I started writing, because I don't fucking watch things, I'm sorry. Anyways, yeah, I don't want to I don't want to explain. Anyways, the idea was to, Lylon plays dead, and she manages to, trick the guy into thinking she's dead until he walks right beside her to look at one of the other Lylons who was cowering in fear. And that's when she has the opportunity to, do something. Something which he won't be able to react to. This is where I need to mention that depending on the kind of Lylon, they have, like, different petals to signify sort of what they specialize in. Kind of like how, depending on how many lights are on in a, depending on which, like, warning lights are on in an Alfa Romeo shows if it's spec'd as a daily driver or a race car or similar. In this case, what did I pick for the petals? Like, this like, beautiful sort of light pink that you would see and imagine, oh, what wonderful colors. What does this mean? Extremely strong venom. So she hits him with the venom spike, which I haven't really put too much thought into where that comes out of. Either out of the arms or out of the ground next to it. Depends, really. I don't remember what I really wrote. I'm sorry. It's been a while. And, so that happens. And, because nobody reacts in time, Timur's brother just kind of dies of poison. Because, yep, they may be super, but even being super has its limits. And because of that, Timur is obviously, mad. And by the time, whatever happens, Timur doesn't have the chance to kill her immediately, because he's still young, and he just, curses the evil doer who took his brother away from him. Ignoring, obviously, that, stories will be written of the evil-doing Lylon who killed a super. We won't write what the super was doing when he was killed, because that's bad for the narrative. But, you could probably make a lot of, like, connections between what I said in real life. But I did not intend any of them. I just thought of it now that it is kind of an interesting thought. So, that happens. And some other stuff happens, because then, like, to extend the story of the slave trade or whatever, The entire place where the Lylons were at gets raided by a PMC, and a lot of them are abducted, and a lot of them are sent to somewhere. However, as they're going through a village where a specific local neutral, quote-unquote, lab is, some of the, like, in that sort of area, some, like, guerrilla, like, group basically raids, shoots a lot of them, takes some of them as prisoners or whatever to be traded for the to the PMC for money, that sort of stuff. You know, general guerrilla activities. Guerrilla with, like, G-U-E-rilla, not actual guerrillas. I don't think as metal as it would be, I think I'm going to leave real gorillas out of my story. Maybe the flying gorilla? No. But yeah. So there was that story, but there's something else. Because that was in the past, and that Lylon grew up at that specific place, and then later on, as she got older, she moved back to the place where she was before, which, because, you know, Lylon, for now, it's a forest, because it's basically the only place that you're safe. And that's kind of the idea. Well, that's the start. This is before you run into Timur. Well, I'm back. So yeah, that's kind of like what happens before the story. The story is actually the main character is running away from a PMC after the mech crashes, runs into the forest. Oh, that's a new person. Let's not kill him immediately. And then, oh yeah, awkward. I'm not doing that again. I'm sorry. But yeah, basically, that's the idea. They meet up. Okay, fuck it. Let's head into the nearby big city. Okay. And oh no, it turns out they somehow run into Timur, and things start to go wrong. Why? Well, oh look, I'm getting stutters. But yeah, the idea is then, you know, they enter the city. Eventually, they run into the fucking Timur, man. A fight breaks out. That's where something else. It doesn't matter. Basically, it seems to be going well. However, Timur isn't going down, and the other character is. So, you know, the other character gets punched down. Whatever. Basically, the fight is going great until, like, it seems to be going great until Timur lands one entire hit. The main character flies into, like, the building, then the floor, whatever. It's, oh yeah, wait, there's no actual damage or injury in Timur, he's fine. Uh-oh. And so, the solution is, you know, Timur, as he is the villain, he has to, you know, do his monologue. And, one thing, which I thought is a funny cliche, is that nobody ever shoots people during the monologue. So, as logic would dictate as logic would indicate, as I began this specific, you know, thing with, nobody ever does that, I do that with the same poison thing. But now two things are different. Yes, the Lylon is more, like, physically, like, developed. They are an adult, so their poison's gonna be stronger. But also Timur's an adult, which means, he is going to do, he's going to need a bit more poison. However, all she does is basically paralyze him so she can reach for the main character, and so they can get away, which they do. But that's when, a bit of a problem happens. You see, the way the supers work, they have some of these traditions that are ingrained to them on an almost biological level. And with the amount of brain damage that was done to Timur because of the horrific paralytic poisonous injury, right? Well, what happened? Well, he's been brain damaged to the degree where the only thing he can think about is revenge. Oh, yes. It's a revenge plot. But for him. So I thought it'd kind of be interesting to write him as if he was like a character with his own little revenge plot that's sort of going on throughout the story. Because I think it'd be mildly entertaining to have, like, him go on his travels or whatever, like, searching for the world, encountering the main character, as if you were the main character, and to sort of, have you only see, like, his parts of the story. To have you never see, like, his parts of the story and only the parts of you encountering him, I think that'd be really interesting. Yeah, after we're done with this, I'm doing one more layer. So that's the idea. However, then, I had another, greater idea. And basically, that's the whole sort of, like, super revenge thing. That's what I'm calling it for now. Because, you know, it's a super whatever. It has to have super and everything, you know? Fucking Superman has super strength. Does Teemo have Teemo strength? I don't know. But the idea is to have a sort of character whose entire reason for revenge isn't just, oh, you know, he's mad, he wants revenge, but that he is mentally incapable of not wanting that revenge. The entire plot, I feel, is sets up a lot, and it's gonna be very difficult to actually write the whole thing, but I'm gonna try. Because the entire story kind of revolves around the world kind of being fucked up. You know, world is a fuck. Where there's so much wrong with it, there's no big villain, you know? There's no big bad. It's more like there are so many differently sized bads that, ooh, what do you even do? A good example of this would be the PMCs, because while they are private military contractors, and they are, you know, especially in the West, basically allowed to, I guess private military companies or whatever, you know, in the West, they're basically allowed to do whatever the fuck they want. They have their own bases, they are literally, like, paid mercenaries if somebody offers them the cash, you know? That sort of stuff. And in the East, the only reason why they do not have any kind of power is because there's basically a fusion between... It's the only place where the state has an actual, like, monopoly on the violence, and because the state has the monopoly, and it's the only one on Earth, I don't blame anyone who lives there. I guess the states, I'm not sure how to handle the politics of that specific region yet, but the idea is that, you know, it is, like, basically not quite North Korea, because they see themselves with slightly more genuine respect and slightly less, like, you know, medieval kingdom without the king sort of thing. So like, more, I don't know. And obviously, like, relatively opened borders, as long as you don't do anything wrong, and doing anything wrong, it can include a wide range of things which may get you in trouble, or may not. Depends on who hears you. That sort of stuff. And obviously that's going to be difficult to write, and that doesn't even cover the other factions. Like, the Foundations, which their entire purpose is to handle a lot of the hazardous, dangerous things. They're responsible for some of them. The lab that exists, the specific one in this story that's sort of like the early sort of fulcrum that sends the main characters on their way to the east. Its entire point is the fact that it's basically, as the name implies, one of the only real places to have the capacity to, like, research a lot of, like, medical stuff and to produce and procure a lot of that equipment, and so the locals will, like, defend it, and there's, like, a sort of mutual understanding they're not to be messed with because they are so important to everybody in the region, you know? That sort of idea. And so, very obviously, you know, it's an interesting it's an interesting idea, I think. But then there's like, you know, the foundation, they have foundations, they have a lot of like fucked up shit down there. Kind of like, I would say like the SCP Foundation, but less competent, but like I don't know, man. They're more like a bunch of umbrella corporations in terms of their competence. That's kind of what I've thought of them as, because well, at least the SCP Foundation has like a structure and like proper leadership. This is a lot more haphazard, Albert Wesker sort of thing. The way you're actually brought into the Foundation is that so at the start of the story, there's the place where you sort of like where the main character. I say you, because at the beginning, the thing is kind of it's centered on one character before they meet the other one. You know, so in the beginning, the main character is basically, you know, confused. What the fuck do I do? Because they spawn in. I guess spawn is the correct term if they literally basically teleport in, but you know. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. And basically, the idea which I had was to have a sort of you know, they're eventually rescued by this dude who's basically a stand-in for Wesker, sort of. Because I think it's kind of funny to have a guy who's just kind of there. And who just happens to be there, and he's like, you know, well, I'm moving up in the Foundation's, whatever. And, when he finds you, he saves you, and he knocks you out with, like, a, injection of some, like, chloroform-esque substance, and then you wake up, uh-oh, you're being studied until some people barge in trying to take you for themselves because they're a rival PMC who's been paid off by some other foundation. Uh-oh. You know, that sort of stuff. That's sort of where the mech escape happens. And the idea is that, at least I came up with. At the start, you run into one of the sort of, like, death cults called the Fuses. One of my favorite sort of like horror tropes is the sort of Resident Evil virus, or just in general like what you could charitably describe as flesh amalgam monsters, you know? So these are like, you know, these are the kinds of things you would see in a Resi game, trying to turn you into a Jill sandwich, or maybe they see you as a oh, I'm decent. Maybe they'll try to see you as a Jill sandwich, you know? How is this flowing? Okay, no, fuck it. I'm gonna see this. Okay, let me do this. Huh? Are all water physics bugged? No. What if I surround this with... Oh, wait. Huh? What? Where the fuck is it flowing from? I am so confused. Okay, this is why the creative... Oh! I'd be fucked if I know, because this continues flowing. From where? Whatever. Keep on flowing, I guess. I'll fix it one day. But yeah, that's sort of the idea. The Fuses are like a flesh amalgam monster creature creation, whose entire purpose is to, well, they're not a creation. They worship a specific creature called the Fuser, which is, kind kind of like just a giant, indescribably large underground flesh thing. Kind of like the Mystery Flesh Pit, but a lot less cool. Because its main thing is that it can sort of like puke out useful things, and what it is basically interested in nothing but consuming specifically new things, because it wants to, you know, it wants to eat you. Not because you are something it likes, but because you're something it doesn't have. Because it's an amalgam of information, it specifically wants to consume things that are sort of dangerous, that are like, you know, that it can use to make new soldiers of the swarms, sort of like a Zerg, you know. And then you have like the Flesh Monster Pocket Edition, which is known as, I think, Labu? I forget. I called it something really simple because it has consumed enough humans to where it has enough intelligence to get very basic information across. And shockingly, it was found in the same foundation as the one where the main character was in. Because, not because Lamu is special, or Labu, I forget what I called it. Not because it's special in some ways, but because there's just a lot of fucked up shit in all of these, and this is the one being kept at this specific foundation. And if you ever played Resident Evil, what happens with all of these kinds of scary creatures in every RE game? That's right, they escape. But to make it worse, you're the one who makes it escape. Well, you have an encounter with it where it's being held down by chains, it's already been sedated. It's not enough, it literally breaks out of, like, it literally, in the matter of, like, less than a minute, it manages to shed its skin like a snake, so it can try to slip through the chains it's being chained up in order to try to eat you. But you manage to escape that, and the scientists are like, whoops, sorry about that. And, yeah, you know, Umbrella Corporation type shit. And, then what happens, of course, because, I love stupid writing. So when the whole blackout happens, when the PMC comes in and tries to specifically abduct you as one of the targets, what happens is you're at a situation where you manage to take the elevator up to the main control module or whatever, and you're like, okay, so I have to escape, and there's a bunch of buttons here, and one of these buttons will set you free. By set you free, I mean it'll unlock every single fucking door in the building. Now, this is great for you. However, let me ask you something. What other things could be released? Oh, that's right, everything. And because the everything has been released, that includes Lamu. And Lamu is sort of analogous to the Flesh Amalgam. I think that it would be interesting to maybe have it as a, like, what if a part of the Flesh Amalgam was abducted and turned into its own thing that was, you know, studied long ago but broke free? Maybe whoever made the original thing also made the Flesh Amalgam. I don't know, like, there's a lot of directions I can take this in, and I haven't really picked any of them. The general issue is, with the, like, characters, is how do you deal with them? Because I am all for, like, breaking expectations and completely unceremoniously, like, taking them out in a fight. I think that can, if used carefully and in small quantities, seriously enhance how people, like, see a story, right? Like, you can imagine a situation where, you have this character and they're, like, you know, made out to be a threat, or whatever, or you think, oh yeah, this is gonna, you know, last for a while, and then, nope. You know, just one single, like, you know, it's not even 7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can afford to play with you, you know? 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you, or whatever, right? It's, just like a single shot immediately goes through them. You know, they fall to the ground limp. That's the sort of idea that I was thinking about. And the issue is, I don't know who you could do this with who would have that kind of anticlimax. So there's, yeah, and then there's the third guy, because I wanted to have the three sort of like person level sort of threats. And the third one, I just called him Baton for now, with an E. I don't have that much new. I don't know if I even want to really include him. I may write that part out. But it would be an interesting foe specifically for the segment of the East. Because the East has its own culture, and one of the enemies that they had to face for a while was this thing called the Baton. It's a dangerous creature whose entire point is that it's evil. But not evil. It is evil in a tortured soul sort of way, where it is continuously driven to madness. It does not, it basically can't be killed in a conventional sort of way. It can only be contained. You try to kill it, you can. It just respawns like in Minecraft and tries to kill again. And of course, what drives it mad is that it can't remember anything except basically everything related to the violence that it has caused and it's been caused to it. And because of that, after so many, generations, these are local legends, these are tales, and also things people do have to sometimes worry about if he's on the loose. The idea is to have, like, a character who is absolutely, devastatingly dangerous, but also, like, someone who does something more like... Because, when somebody is so brain-broken like he is, you can't really fault him, can you, when he's, basically following programming at that point, That's all he has really left in his existence. Which cannot end. And for that reason, I feel like they can't really be... Maybe one of the PMC leaders would be an interesting anticlimax to have the whole, bang, it's over sort of thing with. But I feel like all the other characters would have, like, their arcs just nuked if I was, because the entire point of Baton is to, find some way of actually letting him not need to, like, exist anymore, Letting him actually pass on. The entire point of Timur is, to try to see what you can do with him. And the entire point of Lamu is complete alliteration. So yeah, that's what I've been thinking about, because... why not? What's the harm in it, This video is dragging on because I wanted to use all the stone and talk about something I've been working on. And this is one of the many stories I've started but haven't finished. This is just the one that I think has a lot of potential. There's also another one called Twin Soul, but that's a lot more kind of complicated to explain-ish. The idea, I'll quickly cover it in the 43 blocks remaining I have. The idea is to have, like, souls, because I don't think souls are that interesting as a plot device, but if you're gonna have them, do something weird with them. In this case, if you're really close to death but don't actually die, you can trick a soul that would otherwise repossess you and become a zombie or whatever, to, or like a ghoul or something third, You could kind of... You can fuse and have a fusion of two souls in one being, and sometimes this can lead to ruin, sometimes this can lead to greatness. What will it be this time? And, of course, one of the souls is, from a sort of mechanical entity who people assume is, completely soulless. And the other one is from a long-lost, like, species that people assume is extinct. And they fuse. And so what are you going to do with this? Because the mechanical one has done a lot of bad shit in the previous life, as it was controlled by the hive mind. So now you have an old admiral who kinda wants to see some revenge. Anyways, that's the idea. For now, I would have to expand it further. I can make a decent concept. Fleshing it out is where I run into problems. See you next time. Goodbye.